Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of The Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. Gotta say he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, see, that's the joke. If you're an IT leader or business owner, you can reach out to the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, still giving away a free flamethrower with every IT purchase. Yes, it does come with a fun Picatinny rail adapter, so you can mount it to any standard AR-15, like all SSM accessories can be. Go to toppingtechnologies.com and click the flamethrower button to learn more, or click the URL in the video description below. Lastly, trying to get to 5,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you can click that button and tell your friends, I would greatly appreciate it. Now going over to the business part of the podcast, I list the top companies scrapping DEI policies as well as the ones that are leaning into it. Now this comes to us thanks to TechCrunch.com. Specifically, can be credited to Mr. Davis, who's a writer over there. And he says, quote, companies around America have started to ditch and cut DEI programs from their committees to public documents to legal responses and more. A few weeks ago, General Attorney Pam Bondi instructed the Department of Justice to investigate, eliminate, and penalize DEI programs deemed illegal in the private sector companies that receive federal funds. Trump has signed an executive order banning DEI in the federal government, and with the approval of right-hand companion Elon Musk, who they say they delineate is an immigrant from South Africa with a long-time denouncer of DEI, perhaps the most famous African-American in history, some might argue. They say the reaction from the government's anti-diversity push, which, that's funny they label it, the reaction from the government's anti-diversity push. I mean, DEI is quite literally racist against white folks, so you're actually eliminating people from the resume pool and the job applicant pool based on things they can't control, like their race and gender. I would argue that one's a lot more evil, and actually that's the one that's not diverse. A diverse company would accept every, and I would argue a smart, prudent business would want the best sample size for prospective new hires. You want literally every resume on the planet so you can pick the best, the best, the best, not a subsection of the applicants where you're quite literally eliminating who could be make better hires, better fits the company. But you don't know that if you're quite literally not even looking at their resume, not even entertaining them as a prospective employee. Now they say, quote, in corporate America, McDonald's, Harley Davidson, Booz Allen, which that's almost insulting for the company. It's actually called Booz Allen Hamilton. They're one of the largest defense contractors for services, as well as John Deere, Tractor Supply Company, Polaris, Lowe's, Ford, Morrison Kers, Walmart, Nissan, Accenture, and Target, among others, have all announced some sort of rollback of their DEI policies. Goldman Sachs said in February that it would ditch its requirement for corporate boards filing to go public include women and people of color, which, yeah, that, I mean, that's, yeah, it was scary how much they want to affect company businesses and structures where, again, by forcing people to be on the board, you're pushing out some people who might be better fits. I'm not saying it's 100% of the time going to be that way, but again, I think the best businesses want the best sample size, which is everyone. Now, they did note that, quote, other companies that are trying to strike a balance, aka defiance, some companies still embracing DEI are Apple, Costco, Delta, McKinsey, and JP Morgan. They've indicated commitments to sticking with their DEI efforts, which, again, Costco, I would argue it's illegal, but the shareholders voted over 97% in favor of keeping DEI policies. Now, the silver lining in that situation, or more accurately, the close examination, well, I did a little research of Costco, the biggest shareholders, spoiler, you're not surprised though, I'm sure, BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. So the largest private equity firms out there, and they are the ones that are really pushing DEI as well for these big companies. Because again, if they, heaven forbid, if they own a lot of your stock and they sell it all at once, like a fire sale, that'll crash your stock. That's not good. And a lot of these companies want more investment dollars. They want people to keep buying their stock. They want companies like Vanguard to recommend it to their, people who, their customers, like, hey, you should buy the stock, and yada, yada, yada. Again, there's a reason why a lot of these big companies are mostly controlled. I mean, again, BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, they are the largest individual shareholders of 80+% of the S&P Fortune 500 companies. It's a lot more than people think. And again, hindsight's 2020. Shoot, a lot of folks argue you should have invested in BlackRock decades ago because their stock seems to go nowhere but up. They also continue saying, quote, last year's companies like Tesla, GameStop, Workday, and Salesforce started scrubbing mentions of DEI from their 10K filings, a trend that has accelerated so far this year. Now, again, in that case, they also took it off their websites. McDonald's, well, I don't know if it's really famously, but it made a lot of headlines. They removed DEI from their website, I believe, 2 fiscal quarters ago. So you can't even find it on there. Now, they note that we've reached out to a couple of companies for comment. Now, Amazon says, quote, Amazon's website position still showcases its diversity, equity, and inclusion commitment. However, it's winding down some DEI, quote, unquote, outdated programs and materials, aka illegal things. According to a leaked memo reported by Bloomberg, it removed a post from 2021 that expressed a focus on DEI and removed mentions for diversity from this annual 10K report. You also have Apple in defiance, which is getting some heat from Trump and the government, because Apple says they're going to double down on that. I also have, well, IBM. IBM, quote, still has its inclusion page up, breaking news to the shareholder. The conservative think tank Heritage Foundation requested a company to drop its DEI pay incentive targets though IBM has moved to block the proposal. Yeah, it's interesting. I used to work at an IT manufacturer, Hewlett Packard Enterprise, and a lot of those tech companies, they actually have, employee referral programs. It's kind of creepy and weird. Yeah, if you refer someone who joins the company and they're white, you get like a $500 bonus, but if they're African American, they get a $2,000 bonus. And, well, I was going to say, this definitely isn't the most evil thing IBM's done. I mean, let's just say Edwin Black has a very long, brilliantly written novel. It's quite horrifying. If you ever look into World War II or where those numbers on the arm came from, how they're calculated, how their logistics. Yeah, just look up what IBM was doing for World War II. They weren't just making M1 carbines to the United States government. You know what I mean. They know that Intel stated they cut back on the language on DEI on its recent 10K filings and removed some diversity targets. They say Meta is eliminating some DEI programs, targeting hiring, suppliers, and training, according to a leaked internal memo. Microsoft released its 2024 inclusion report in October, where CEO Satya Nadella reiterated its importance of a diverse workforce. However, in July of that year, Microsoft laid off its internal DEI team because of, quote, changing business needs. Which, of all the companies, that's probably the one I'm most surprised, since Microsoft basically has a monopoly for OS or operating systems. I mean, you basically have Microsoft and Apple. And unless you're a marketing company or a graphic design company, most businesses are going to need some sort of Microsoft instance in their environment. They also, then NVIDIA still has its diversity, inclusion, and belonging page up and released a 2024 sustainability report where he has a section dedicated to, quote, people, diversity, and inclusion. We also have Zoom. They say Zoom laid off its DEI team during their second round of layoffs last year, telling staff it would work with external consultants who will engage on all of our employees while focusing on inclusion, according to a leaked report to Bloomberg. Yeah, their stock, Zoom. They were really hot for New York Minute. Now, Tesla also scrubbed any mention of DEI and inclusion on its latest 10K last year. Elon Musk is also an outspoken critic of DEI. Company only released one diversity, equity, and inclusion report back in 2020. So it's interesting to see which companies are leaning into it and which ones are, moving away from it. And really, at the end of the day, it'll be, what happens when it comes to the federal lawsuits that come from this, and when people start suing the companies for discrimination. And again, we'll see how it affects the companies in terms of, do we see mass boycotts this year? Boycotts of businesses were pretty hot for New York Minute a couple of years back. I mean, shoot, people boycotted Target. I mean, probably the most famous boycott, bar none, when it comes to, libertarian or people middle of the road or conservatives, would be the Bud Light boycott, which erased over $1 billion of Bud Light sales, which, it was the number one beer for 20 years in a row. And not so much these days. So we'll see. We haven't really heard of much boycotts lately, but let me know in the comments, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, try to get to 5,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you can click that button, I greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or comment. It's a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.